Mark, welcome to the podcast, mate. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you, mate. And I just mentioned offline that obviously Danny's not here today, so apologies he couldn't make you. He was looking forward to the conversation, but hopefully we can still have a good one, mate. So yeah, looking forward to this.
No, that makes both of us. Thank you for having me.
No problem, mate. And are you back home in the UK now?
Yeah, we're back home since trials, and now we're just waiting on visas to get accepted. Hopefully accepted to get back out in America full time.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, we'll come on to your experience at Kingsway in a second, but firstly, congrats for the trials. Is it the second trials win that you've had now?
Yep, that's two in a row.
Yeah, nice, mate. And tell us a little bit about I guess how the event went over the couple of days and how you found it this time round.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought it went. I thought it went really well. Of course, things can always go better, but for me, I was pleased. I think it was a lot better than the first trials that I won. The first trials that I won, where one, it was an extremely hard day. All the matches were very, very competitive, very hard. But just from my own like grappling perspective, I thought I was probably quite poor. And I didn't really think I did. I wasn't particularly happy with myself for my performances, and also as well, probably back then too. Obviously, my level of grappling as well wasn't what it's at now. So I think just as well, I just didn't maybe make particularly that a great an account of myself. Whereas I feel this time around, I feel like I did much better, both from just being much better, and then also I felt like I performed much better too. I felt like I made a much better account of myself. So yeah, I'm happy with I'm happy with how it's went. There's a few wee things that I'm maybe not, they need to be better, of course, always. But yeah, we're slowly getting there.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. And I mean, the fact that you can still pull out a trials win and kind of reflect back and feel that you won anywhere near your best is obviously awesome. So the fact you've gone into this recent one, kind of with that extra experience with Jiu-Jitsu and obviously feeling like your game's clicking a little bit more, obviously it's gonna definitely pay off. And was there anything in particular that during the more recent trials that you did really well that you were really happy about, that you've been working on perhaps?
Yeah, so I think my stand-up was far better. I think in the, again, previously, I feel like I've always tried to, I'm always trying to get better, obviously. But I feel like this time around, especially with my stand-up, I thought my stand-up looked much better. I thought it was a lot more fluid. We've been working on a lot of, like Kazushi drills and feinting drills and things like that. And I thought that paid off massively. So I thought my stand-up game was much better from, hand fighting to feints and like the Kazushi drills that we've been doing, and I thought my pinning was much better as well. And I think just overall, I think the main thing was I feel like in competitions I've never really reflected my like ability in the gym. Like I feel like in the gym I do things and I'm able to do stuff, and then I feel like in competition I maybe I've been too overly conservative, and I've not really shown a lot of the skills that I have, whereas I feel like this time I was a lot less hesitant, and I think that just comes from obviously one, again, being better, two, being more experienced, and then three, I think just being a bit more confident in my ability as well.
Yeah, and that's interesting, mate, because obviously, I think I can't remember the exact quote from John Danaher, so I won't butcher it by trying to repeat it. But I remember him talking about confidence once, and he was saying that you can't talk people into confidence, and that it comes from obviously the kind of wins in the gym and on the mats, and the confidence there then transfers across to competition. So it's interesting that you spent that time at Kingsway with those guys, and then you're kind of feeling like there's a better transfer of skill from the mats, the training room to competition. Do you think that had anything to do with it?
Massively. This year I've spent 6 months in total at Kingsway. Well, 4 months at ROKA, and then obviously 2 months at Kingsway, because obviously it's only been open recently. But I'd say massively. I think one just being like, I think the thing is that one with John and Gordon, with them coaching, like well, literally coaching full time and taking every single session, having their feedback, it's like I think like maybe back home the majority of my training, or I would say pretty much all of my training is is self-led, and I'm effectively kind of coaching myself. So then it's like if somebody maybe back home says, "Oh, you're doing this really well," or "You're doing this really well," it's like, "Oh yeah, thanks very much," but it's maybe like in 1 year in, 1 year out the other. Whereas I feel like there've been a few times where Gordon or John had said something to me, and it's like, oh, like okay, like that makes me actually feel really good. Like example, like John pulled me aside and told me he was how good my stand up was looking, and the Kazushi drills that we've been doing from standing and whatnot. He was saying your stand up looks worlds apart to where it was a couple of months ago. And that itself actually gave me, huge amounts of confidence. Whereas I feel like if someone had maybe said that back home, it's like, well, yeah, they're my friend, or they're, So I think that itself, and then also I think, so I think that's one aspect of it that I found really helpful, because I really value both of their opinions, and I like really trust both of their opinions. So I think that then when they gave me positive feedback, I actually took it on board and believed it. Which I think has not happened before really for me. And then I think the second thing as well is just like who I'm training with over there. Like the people that I was training with, like literally like Luke, Dan, Giancarlo, Nicholas, Gordon, Aidan, Roman, like the list goes on and on and on. Like training with those guys, it's again like back home in the UK, it's like if I'm having success against certain people, it's not like, again, this isn't, I don't want this to come across negatively, but it's hard to then, maybe gain huge amounts of confidence from that. Whereas if you're having success against, these guys, I think that's just a much bigger confidence booster as well.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. I can imagine that makes absolute sense. And why was it ROKA? Obviously, it's kind of obvious because the athletes there and obviously the coaching staff are incredible, but there's obviously a lot of very good, sort of academies, Atos, B Team. Why was it ROKA originally that you went to? Was it an invite thing? Was it because of the match with Dan in ADCC last time?
So obviously Dan invited me. So I would say that's the kind of the main driver, because obviously again, especially at ROKA, I know Kingsway is obviously just like a gym that is open fully to the public. Anybody can go, obviously, because it's just a school. But ROKA obviously was invite only, so I wouldn't have had a way into that if it wasn't for Dan. So obviously Dan's helped me out tremendously with that. So I'd say that's one thing. But then also I think that the thing is that in my opinion, I think John and Gordon are the best coaches in the world. So I wanted to be a part of that. And then also I think as well, and I'm not saying this is the case with B Team or other teams at all, because I've never been to any of these, so I don't know. But it's more a case of, I feel like if I'm going to like uproot mine and my fiance's life to the other side of the world, and to do all of that, I don't want to go somewhere that I'm still like self-leading my training. Of course, the people you have access to is far better, but honestly, I think the biggest thing for me since being there is actually having a coach. Like John and Gordon took every pro session, and I think like that's it's not, obviously being in that room, being surrounded by those people, being able to train with all of those people, that itself is absolutely invaluable. Mm-hmm. But I think even above that, actually having two people that are like, they're there and dedicated to coaching you, and just having a coach, I think has been, really, really helpful.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, man. And I know what you mean about the kind of the coaching. I think we trained at B Team for a little bit, and that was when Dima was there, so he was kind of running the room a little bit. And obviously, you've got some amazing athletes there, but it certainly didn't feel like there was a structured syllabus that like a permanent head coach or coaching staff were leading. So that makes sense. I think that you want to do that, and And I did wonder as well, I think I guess we'll get into your background with powerlifting and everything in a little while, but you've obviously got some incredible attributes there, and it feels maybe a little bit like John and Gordon and those guys, their style might suit somebody with those sort of attributes. Was that something that you felt when you were there training as well?
Yeah, tremendously. And I think with the coaching thing, I think it makes sense because see as well, like every sport on the planet, like everybody, boxers all have coaches. And like the thing is as well, as you look at these sports, football teams all have managers. On top of managers, they have coaches. They've got fitness coaches, you've got goalkeeping coaches. You've got all these sports that are worth, almost infinite amounts of money all have coaches. So it's a case of why would grappling be any different? Now I understand that with grappling, it's not, people aren't making tons of money, and you can't be like, right, you're just my coach and I'm just such and such's coach and I take, make money off of them because we get paid enough. I know it's not going to work like that, but I think for me, just having like an actual, coach, and like you said, what was so lovely was I just had to turn up to the 2 pro sessions a day every day. I just all I had to worry about was I just have to be there, and it's and it's so nice, and it's like you said, there's like a real syllabus, and there's like real thought put into it. And obviously, as what worked out quite well was CGI was 1 week before ADCC Trials, so all of them were getting ready for CGI as I was getting ready for trials. So it was nice as well because they were obviously ramping things up for CGI, and then that kind of obviously worked really well in like peaking for ADCC Trials as well. But with regards to like the actual style, 100%. Like honestly, like pretty much everything I do is just trying to copy what Gordon Ryan does, like his passing, his pinning, all this stuff. And it's just from like watching his instructions, watching his matches. So then actually having these guys like in front of you teaching you, it's massively beneficial.
Yeah, mate, I can imagine. And what's Gordon like as a coach? Because obviously most people know him as the GOAT, of no-gi and an elite athlete. And John's often talked about the fact that, one day he'll be an amazing coach as well. And, it seems like he's pretty much done, I think, with competing at this point, or it certainly seems that way. And obviously coaching now is basically what he does. So what's he like as a coach?
Amazing, yeah. His coaching's fantastic. I really, amazing. Yeah, the way he explains stuff, and just his knowledge. I feel like there's probably not anything I couldn't go with and not have an answer for. But it is funny because like being in that room or like listening to him and John talk about jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, and it is just like, I don't think about jiu-jitsu the way these guys think about jiu-jitsu. It is incredible.
Yeah, mate, that's awesome. And tell me about Kingsway. Obviously, we've seen the videos. I've seen the vlog with Gordon. It looks stunning. I mean, is it as good as it looks on the telly?
Yeah, it's a really nice high-end gym for sure. Yeah, it's lovely. But you walk in and the front desk is like a marble front desk. Yeah. And like coming from Glasgow, I'm just like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, mate, it looks stunning. And how about Austin? I mean, Austin's a far cry from Glasgow, right? Certainly in regard to the weather and I don't know, maybe the vibe of the place. I mean, we spent 2 weeks there and really loved it. What did you think of Austin as a city?
Austin's cool. I mean, I must admit, like I love Glasgow, like I really do, and like it's a shame to have to like move because like we like me and my fiance, we really love Glasgow. But of course, like for jiu-jitsu, we've got to. But Austin's cool. I can't lie. Like the first 4 months that we were there, my fiance was there, so we did go and do quite a bit of stuff. The other 2 months other few months into trials, it was just me. My fiance couldn't make it, unfortunately, and I can't lie. I if it wasn't for going to grappling, I pretty much didn't leave my room. So, but yeah, no, Austin's cool. It's definitely a shock. Weather-wise, I'm not okay with that heat at all.
Yeah, what months were you there for?
So July, and would it be July? When was trials? Was trials in September? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so July, August.
Okay, so yeah, the hot months then, right?
Oh, and it's funny because actually I think they were saying that like for July and August, this is like the coolest July and August they've almost ever had, and I was fucking dying.
Yeah, man. Well, we were there in April. I think was it late April? I think it was before they had the Who's Number One coming up. I can't think who Nikki fought now, but yeah, it was around April, and that was hot. That was hot, but it was bearable. So yeah, we got told a lot that it's just like a fucking oven in the summer months there. So
It is mental. It's absolutely mental, and even like the weight, the weights room that I was going to lift weights and do cardio and stuff. There was no AC, so it's just like, oh, it was awful. But I pretty much would like sprint from the house into the car, in the car, and I'd sprint from the car into the gym, and then I would just try and avoid going outside of that.
yeah, fair, mate. What did you make of the food? Did you eat at Terry's?
Yeah, awesome, unreal. The barbecue is absolutely phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful food, man. And to be fair, the people there I thought were great as well. Just the homeless people are a little bit wild. So once you get used to those, it feels good.
Yeah. The homeless people are pretty crazy. Like I must admit, like the amount of times that like you're sitting at like an intersection, and like obviously the homeless people are at the thing, and like they're like trying to fight with like every car that goes by, and they are fucking insane, to be fair. Like they make like like that's like I always thought that like back in the UK, like I'm like our homeless people need to like pick their game up, because they just sit there, in Austin they are fucking mental.
Yeah, mate, it was it took some getting used to, but yeah, good luck with that when you move there. So is that the plan then now, to try and get out there permanently and stay out there for however long your career lasts?
Yeah. So we've put it in. So me and my fiance, we've applied for our visas. So it's just with the immigration lawyer now that we've got. He's been fantastic. So yeah, it's just a case of, obviously I've never done this before, so I really don't know how long these things take or what to expect. But yeah, he seems pretty happy. I think the main thing is that for what we're applying for, I'm applying for like an athlete's visa. It's quite clear cut as to like whether you kind of meet the regulations or not. Like the stipulations of what they're looking for. So luckily I meet all them. So fingers crossed, in touch wood, I think it should be as straightforward as maybe something like that could be, hopefully. So yeah, it's just a case of waiting for that now, and then we'll move out there full time like early months, early next year. So yeah,
it'd be good, man. And how old are you now? How old?
30.
Okay, yeah. So still got a bit of time then.
Yeah, luckily I'm a heavyweight. So luckily I'm a heavyweight. So 30 years old for a heavyweight. I know I don't look 30. I know I look I'm about 80. But luckily, 30 is pretty young. So realistically speaking, I think, especially in grappling, in my style, I reckon I've got like a solid, decade of competing in front of me. So yeah, I'd say, I've, hopefully not even maybe another 6 years before I hit my prime. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, man, for sure. And are you primarily focused on sort of pro no-gi, or are you potentially looking to compete at like Worlds and do IBJJF or anything like that at the moment?
So with regards to no-gi, I've got the IBJJF Europeans, and that's only a few weeks away now. That's two weeks on Friday, I think. So I'm doing that, and then nice. I can't this year. I can't this year. I did IBJJF Worlds in 2024. I can't do IBJJF Worlds this year because I can't enter the country while my visa application is if that makes sense. Like I don't know the word to use, but as it's getting reviewed, I'm not able to enter the country. If I enter the country, it would cancel the visa application. So I can't do IBJJF Worlds this year, but I'll do IBJJF Worlds next December. Okay. That's the goal. And then obviously the most important thing is and like my number one goal is ADCC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, for sure. And are you a black belt?
No, I'm a brown belt.
Brown belt still. Okay. How long have you been grappling for now?
just over 6 years, like 6 years, 2 months, 3 months.
Okay.
So not too long.
Yeah. And always been grappling or based in Glasgow?
Yeah, so pretty much. I've like, to be fair, I've travelled around like the whole of the UK pretty much. So like the majority of my training and like my home gym is in Glasgow, Marcos Nardini Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I also was up north. I trained in Aberdeen quite a bit with SPG Aberdeen. I trained up in way up north in Elgin and Inverness with. And then I also train with Ben Bennett and Matt Leo, relatively regularly. And then I also have been down in London as well with like Owen and stuff too. But pretty much the majority of it has been done in Glasgow. But I definitely very regularly travel around, the whole of the UK to get good training in. And then obviously we've been to Texas a few times, and then obviously, moving there hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, and it's funny, mate. We chat to so many Americans on this podcast about like sort of cross training and everything else, and I think in the UK it's so small. I mean, I think when we were in Austin or in Texas, we looked, and I think Texas is like 2.5 times the size of the UK. It's like so fucking big, and I think it just makes sense to travel around. Yeah, but it makes sense to travel around in the UK and train because everyone's actually so close, as much as we don't feel like it.
Yeah, oh no, for sure. Like that's like obviously I'm in Glasgow, and like for example, like Ben, his gym Matt Leo is down in Bradford. But like honestly, like that's only like depending on time of day, you're talking like 3.5, 4 hours away. It's really not that far. Even like London, like you jump on a flight, the flight's an hour. Jump on a flight at 7 a.m. You could train the whole day, jump on a flight back home. Yeah, it's definitely pretty accessible, but the size of Texas is insane. Americans always I always find it quite funny because, like I'm like, oh, that's, for example, I'm like, oh, London's fucking like that's ages away. It's like a 7-hour journey, but like to them, they're like, oh, that's just nothing. Like I commute that every day.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
insane how the distances that they travel.
Yeah, I think the difference though in our defence is their roads are good, ours are shit. So I think that makes a difference. You know what I mean? It's easier to drive. You just cruise along. It's nice and straight and flat. So
and they've got everything's automatic, huge big engines as well. We're driving around in like a wee Fiat 500.
That's it, mate. That's it for sure. Let's talk about your transition into jiu-jitsu, mate, because obviously you lifted a few weights before jiu-jitsu, right? So tell me about why you started jiu-jitsu, and then we'll get into maybe your background in powerlifting as well, because I'm quite interested to hear about that, and then how that transfers also. But how did you get into jiu-jitsu?
So how I got into jiu-jitsu was I became very, very disillusioned with powerlifting. I wasn't enjoying competing in it at all anymore, and the reason for that was because I was so heavy. It was such a miserable existence. I was 24 years old, and I was 151 kilos. So that's like, I don't know how many pounds. Is that like 340 pounds or 350 pounds or something?
Yeah, around that. Yeah.
And and then even to like sustain that, I'm eating like 8,000 calories a day, maybe, and maybe a tiny little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but right around that like 7,000 to 8,000 mark, and just a miserable existence. Honestly, it's just really, really not fun, and I think that probably been heightened by the fact that in my head I'd kind of done what I wanted to do, and just became very disillusioned with it. Wasn't enjoying it at all, but mostly heightened by just being that size and upkeeping that size. Just upkeeping that size in general is just awful, and then just existing at that size. It's funny because for being so heavy, I actually, handled it pretty well in terms of, like I could still get about and like I could still easily, go walks and stuff, and I was still pretty mobile. But it's like, just takes so much energy to do anything, and then it's only once you lose it you realise like, oh my god, I can't believe I felt like that. So basically, I just remember I'd not been wanting to do it for a long time, but was too scared not to do it because it's like, you know, like, well, one, like my business at the time, I was obviously like doing, coaching, but I was only coaching powerlifters because of course that's what I did. So my business is like tied to it, and then on top of that, it's like your whole identity becomes tied to it because all anyone speaks to you about is that, you know, and obviously, like, understandably, people are just being like nice and supportive and showing an interest, but it's never like, oh, how, like, just like, how are you, what you been up to?
Yeah.
It's always like you, talking to you about your lifting or what are you lifting, or so you do this, so you do that, and it gets to a point, it's like all anyone ever speaks to you about is your lifting. And I know that people are just being nice and supportive, and that's not, they're actually being, you know, nice, but, you know, so it becomes your whole identity. So I've been not wanting to do it for a long time, but obviously too scared not to do it. And then I remember I went into the gym on a Tuesday night to deadlift, and I think I wasn't sure if I'd done my top set, but I think I'd just done my top set, and I just walked out. I just went, that's me, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'm not wanting to do this anymore. And then I was down in Leeds, so I'd moved down to Leeds for that. So I was living in Leeds for that, and basically I didn't know anybody at all in Leeds other than the people that did powerlifting. But then because I wasn't going to the powerlifting gym anymore, I literally knew nobody, and like barely, like I literally was just stuck in a flat myself. I didn't know anybody or see anybody, so I was like, I wanted to do something. And my brother at the time, he was a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and he did jiu-jitsu. I think he lived in Australia still at that point, but he was really into jiu-jitsu. I was just like, fuck it, like, I'll just, you know, it's something to do. It'll help, it'll get me out of the house, you know, I can do that, you know, once a day, or, you know, Monday through Friday, get me out of the house, give me something to do. You know, it's extra activity, so, you know, it'll help me lose weight because it's just, you know, extra activity. And then before you know it, it's completely taken over my life, and, you know, and yeah, so, you know, that it's just taken over everything.
Yeah, fair, mate. I feel like obviously well, maybe not you because you're so fucking ginormous, but we've all experienced that, like, big strong white belt, and I almost feel like you're potentially like the spazzy white belt final boss, being as big and as strong as you are. I mean, how were you received when you first fucking walked into a jiu-jitsu gym with your size and your background in powerlifting?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I remember I turned up to my first ever class, and I was absolutely fucking shitting myself. I've never been so nervous in my life. I was absolutely shit myself. And again, I was down there, and remember I turned up, and it was in like it was like a huge big building, but in the building there was like a CrossFit gym, there was like cafes, there was like all these different businesses in it. I couldn't find it, and I was driving about, and then it was like, I remember the guy had said to me, on, because I'd emailed him obviously to go for the class and stuff. The guy basically said, like, you know, come turn up 10 minutes early, so we can get you sorted and blah blah blah. Make sure not to be late or whatever. And like, I literally turned up. I was like, you know, turn up quarter to 9 or quarter to 10, whatever it was, on a Saturday morning, and then couldn't find it. It was like now 2 minutes past 9, and I was like, fuck it, I'm not going in now, no chance. And like, you know, at first I was like, oh, there's no point, I shouldn't go because he told me to be 10 minutes early, and I'm not. But it was actually just like, I was like, I can't face fucking walking in there. But forced myself to, walked in, and to be fair, they were, you know, super friendly. And if they were, but I remember he went, I don't think we're going to have a gi that's going to fit you. I remember thinking, oh, for fuck's sake. So put this fucking gi on, and you know, I can only imagine what I look like. I know I look ridiculous. And then they gave me a white belt, but it was like an A2 white belt or something. And they couldn't, and you know, like, you like get the belt and you tie it back and then you bring it back on itself. Yeah. They just put it on me like you put like a belt on your trousers.
Yeah. Mate, it probably, would it even fit around your thigh at that point, mate, an A2 belt? It must have been
so
tiny, like,
on you.
It
wouldn't fit. And then, and then obviously, you know, jumped in the warm-ups, and it was honestly a disaster. Like running around the room, and then, you know, doing the shrimps, forward roll, backwards roll, all that stuff, and just it was the worst experience of my life. It was awful.
I'm assuming you probably didn't have much of a gas tank if you were a powerlifter either.
No. And that, like, genuinely, like, that running around that room would have been the most amount of activity I'd done in, I don't know however long I'd powerlifted, 10 years maybe.
Yeah, shit, man. And obviously, like, as terrifying as that was, it wasn't enough to put you off. So you obviously went back. I mean, leaving that first session, if you can remember this far back at this point, like, how did you feel? And like, were you planning on going back once you'd finished that session, or were you like, fuck this, and then you kind of really thought about it? Where was your headspace at? Can you remember?
Yeah, so I can't lie. So I absolutely hated jiu-jitsu when I first done it. I thought it was this, like, I just didn't like it. It didn't make sense to me as well. Like, I remember thinking, like, I just don't I don't understand. So, like, for example, like, powerlifting, it's like, oh, I'm just to, like, lift this weight from A to B. Like, football, I'm to put this, like, you're to put the football into the net, or you know, all boxing, I'm like, I'm going to try and punch this guy in the face. You know, like, obviously, like. And there's a clear objective with jiu-jitsu. Like, yeah, I'm like, where do you go? Like, you know, if you're like Rome or somebody, I'm like, where do you like go? Like, what's the whole point? I remember after like maybe 4 or 5 weeks, I pulled one of the coaches aside. And I was like, what do you actually like do? Like, where do you go? Like, what do you do? And he was like, you know, you want to get by the legs and you want to get to you know, to a pin position, and then if you're like following like actual jiu-jitsu, like, you know, like the truest form of jiu-jitsu, you're going to try and get their back and then you're going to try and choke them. And I'm like, oh, that actually makes like a little bit of sense. But no, I didn't like it, for sure didn't like it. Didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand it. Didn't feel comfortable at all. Felt very uncomfortable, and just felt like a fucking idiot. Like, just like this is just so embarrassing. But yeah, I signed up to the. I signed up. I don't even know why. I just did. I signed up, but it was like, I think when you signed up, it was like a 2-month contract, or I think it was maybe a 3-month contract. So it was a case of like, you know, if I cancel, I'm going to pay the 3 months anyway. So I was like, well, yeah. And again, honestly, I was just like, I'm not fucking got anything else. You know, I'm not doing anything else. So I may as well. So I just forced myself. I just honestly forced myself to go. And then after 3 months, I moved back up the road, back home to Glasgow. Started training in Glasgow. And that's where my brother trained as well. And then just became pretty obsessed with it. To be honest, it was quite a sharp turn from being pretty uninterested to being completely obsessed. There wasn't really much of a, like, you know, gradual process. It was just like from pretty uninterested to pretty obsessed, almost like a flick of a switch.
Yeah. So was there a particular thing or moment that clicked for you that caused that change in mindset? Was it like a competition, or did things just start working and making sense? Was it like losing weight? What was it?
I'm not too sure. I came home and then I think obviously just when I came home, I started to enjoy it more. I think just because obviously like the school itself was great, you know, with Marcos and everyone there. Training with my brother, I'd lost obviously a lot of weight. You know, I think I'd got down to about 100, and I think at my lowest I was 107 kilos. So I think I'd lost like 44 kilos, something like that.
That's insane.
So yeah,
so much weight,
100 pounds.
Yeah,
100 pounds. So so is that like 6 stone or something? And then I done a competition. I done a competition in Motherwell at Ravenscraig, and I think I'd done that when I'd been training for. I think I'd been training for 4.5 months, maybe 5 months, and I wasn't even. I remember again, like I don't know why I signed up, and I like wasn't nervous on the day at all or anything. Because again, I just think I was still relatively uninterested. Then I double golded at that, so I double golded at that competition, and then I think I just kind of became a little bit obsessed with that. To be honest, I've definitely got a very obsessive personality for sure. Like I'm generally either completely uninterested in something or completely obsessed with it. There's not really usually an in between.
Yeah, fair, mate. And did you say that you as a living you were doing like coaching and stuff alongside that at this point? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so since the age of when I left school, I was 17. I became a personal trainer, and then I was just like a personal trainer for maybe like three years, and then I started online coaching and just coaching powerlifters. And then still to this day, I've got my business, and it's just, still coach powerlifters, mostly coach jiu-jitsu guys now. And again, that's just probably because that's what I do. So yeah, it's just strength and conditioning coaching, but I've still got a lot of powerlifters, to be fair. It's maybe like 70-30, 60-40 in favour of jiu-jitsu guys compared to powerlifters now.
Yeah, mate, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's very lucky because, well, one, that's why I'm able to move to America, because I'm not tied to one particular spot, as long as I've got my phone, my laptop, and Wi-Fi. I mean, to be fair, I don't even need Wi-Fi anymore with like 5G and stuff now. As long as I've got that, it doesn't even matter. And it's funny because the last time I was in Texas for a few months, I don't even think the majority of the people that I coach even noticed that I was even fucking in Texas. I remember one guy or something, and I told him, he's like, "Wait, are you in Texas just now?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, I never even fucking noticed."
Yeah, the time difference isn't too bad, is it? It's like 6 hours, so it's like manageable.
Texas is 6 hours behind, and if anything, that's honestly like, if anything, because I coach people. The majority of the people that I coach from the UK, but like I've got a couple, like I've got like a guy in Australia, I've got like a guy in Italy, a guy in Germany, people in America, like people like all over. But like the majority of people I coach are in the UK, but if anything, like most people work during the day, so most people are going to lift weights or do their strength and conditioning between like 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. So actually, if they're like doing that between 5 and 10 p.m. and they send that over at 10, that's actually like the middle of the day for me. So if anything, it's probably even better because I'm available, even more for the time that they're in, if that makes sense. So it's very, 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 very fortunate because one, it's, again, I can train full time because I can just work all my hours around training. I don't have to, and then two, I don't have to be in one specific place. So I'm able to we're able to move to America. So no, I'm very, very lucky and very fortunate for sure.
Yeah, mate, 100%. And what do you primarily provide as a service for your clients? Is it like programming? Do you do like technique observation and correction and that type of thing?
Yeah, so there's a few different like packaging stuff, but with the actual like coaching aspect, so full programming. So obviously they have their programming for whatever their sport is. It'll be fully customized to them what they need to do. And then with regards to they have each session they'll ideally, obviously it's up to them, but ideally they'll film every session, send over the footage, and then they'll get, full feedback on that. And then, we're in contact pretty much every day. So no, it's very comprehensive. It's very time consuming for sure.
Yeah, sounds sick, man. And just for those that are maybe listening, for the jiu-jitsu nerds that are listening, I mean, we've talked about powerlifting a little bit. I know what powerlifting is, but can you just explain exactly what powerlifting is so that people understand what we're talking about?
Yeah, so powerlifting is a very simple sport. Basically, you've got three movements. So you've got squat, you've got bench, and you've got deadlift. And a competition would work in that order. So you do squat first, then you do bench press, then you do deadlift. You have 3 attempts for each lift. So, for squat, you get to do 3 different lifts, bench press 3 different lifts, deadlift 3 different lifts. And, within the context and confines of those movements, whoever lifts the most weight possible over all 3 movements would win the competition. So, for example, if someone lifts more on bench and deadlift than me, but I lift so much more on them than squat than they do on bench and deadlift, and my total's higher, then I would win the competition. So it's about your total at the end of the competition, not just individual lifts.
Yeah, nice, man. And when did you actually start getting into that? Were you kind of lifting weights growing up as a kid, and then you got into competitive powerlifting, or how did that sort of happen?
Yeah, so I was pretty young when I started. I think I started lifting weights when I was 14 years old. I'd always been in fact, actually even earlier than that, because I remember in my mum and dad's garage, we had weights. I probably started lifting weights when I was maybe even 10 years old, probably, because we had access to weights from a really young age. Just started lifting weights. I think I started going to the gym when I was 14, and then lifting weights. And then when I was 16 years old, I had a full rupture of my ACL. playing football, so I fully ruptured my ACL, so I needed a full ACL reconstruction on my knee. So then a side effect, or not a side effect, sorry, but like part of the rehab, luckily, the NHS physio that I had was phenomenal. And I remember they were basically just saying, like, we need to just get your leg as strong as possible. So then they were like, and weights is going to do that. So I really, really started taking weights seriously. And then obviously I couldn't, while I was doing that, I couldn't play football anymore, and I couldn't do boxing anymore either while I was doing that. So I couldn't do the two sports that I was doing. And then I honestly just realised I was like pretty good at it. And then again, I got obsessed with it. I started like looking into it, and I came across a guy called Pete Rubish. And he was a powerlifter. He was like one of the best powerlifters in the world at that point. I just thought he was like the coolest guy that I'd ever seen. And I remember being like 16 years, like a 6-year-old wee guy. It's like so funny because that's like most 6-year-old wee guys are like probably like looking up fucking porn and stuff. And I was just watching Pete Rubish on YouTube. So I had my priorities straight for sure. But no, I remember just being like so enamored by him. And then obviously then I, was looking at all the other powerlifters, and I was just so enamored, and I was just like, I want to be like that. And then literally just went all in. I think I did my first competition when I was 17 years old, and maybe might have been 18. I can't quite remember. And just dove absolutely headfirst into it.
Yeah, sick, man. And were you always like a big lad growing up, or did you pile on the weight as you got into your like teens and early 20s?
No, so like surprisingly, like people might not believe it, but I was actually very small as a child. I think from like ages of like 0 to 10 years old, I was probably don't think I was taller than not most people, but I was definitely like stronger. Like I remember when I was young, maybe like 6 years old, 7 years old, or 8 years old. Remember I used to like arm wrestle with like my brother's friends, and my brother's like 2 years older than me, and I would like beat them easily and like toy with them. So I was definitely strong then. But then like when you go into like secondary school at like 11, 12 years old, like all of my friends were like had like hit puberty and were like growing and developing, and I was like so late to develop, like so late. So I was honestly tiny. Like I was really small. Like I remember like boxing. Like I think I fought my first ever boxing fight was at 47 kilos, and then I fought at 52 kilos. I think I was probably like 14 years old, and then I might even like 15, 16, I was tiny. And yeah, honestly, I was really small. And then at 16, I like finally like, hit puberty and developed, and then, and then it did quickly change. But no, I was actually very small, just because obviously everyone else had developed, and I was just really, really late to develop.
Yeah, man. Okay. And when you said like you were pretty strong as a youngster, were you doing any particular sport to make you strong? Were you, doing gymnastics, like farming, like anything? Or was it just genetics, do you think?
No, I think I played rugby.
Okay.
I played football. I might use the term play loosely. I mean, I can't really remember. I know I used to go along to rugby and football. But I think probably just genetically, I definitely wasn't doing anything that anybody else was doing. And then obviously, like I said, when you go into secondary school, everybody develops, and then I didn't. And then it gets to a point, especially when you're like 15 years old. It's like at 15, like back then, like some people were like, I remember like were actually like men, like they had facial hair and and like I hadn't even like nothing. I was tiny, and then obviously then I developed, and then things quickly changed. But then it did change very quickly, I suppose, because my first ever competition at 17 or 18, I competed at 110 kilos. So things did turn around very quickly. So I did become big very quickly. But no, growing up, I was actually pretty small.
Okay. And how tall are you, mate?
I'm 6'3".
Okay.
Well,
fuck.
I'm 6'2.5". I'm 6'2.5", but you always round up.
Of course, in more ways than one.
Yeah. So 6'3".
Yeah. Okay. So fucking big boy then. And when you were competing, obviously powerlifting, you said there's 3 lifts. So what were your PBs for the 3 lifts out of interest?
Yeah. So in competition, my best lifts were, and this is all raw as well. So in powerlifting, you have raw and you have equipped. So if you're people that are not aware, equipped is like you get to wear knee wraps, and you also like have like, so like you'd have like a squat suit, a bench shirt, a deadlift suit. So basically, in a nutshell, I mean, it's maybe not doing it justice because it is very skilled, but you're basically putting on a piece of fabric that allows you to lift more weight. You know, in a nutshell. But I was doing raw. So a 365 kilo squat in comp, a 210 kilo bench in comp, and a 350 kilo deadlift in comp. So they're my three biggest lifts.
Hell, man. That's a fucking crazy squat, mate. That's a crazy squat.
Yeah, my squat was my best. When I stopped powerlifting, and I know this is like, you know, and I didn't do it, so, you know, it's maybe not worth, you know, I can't claim it, but I would say when I stopped powerlifting, I was at my strongest by a mile. I would say I could have squatted 400. I think I could have benched 225, and I think I could have deadlifted about 370. I think I could have totaled 1,000 kilos. My biggest total ever in comp's 920 kilos. I think I could have done 1,000 when I finished. Like I think when I'd finished, I'd squatted 325 for 4 reps with like 3 reps in the tank. So that's like so that'd be like a 7 rep max. I'd bench pressed like 200 for 3 with like two reps in the tank, and I deadlifted 340 for 3 with like, I think, a rep or 2 in the tank. So yeah, I was quite a lot stronger when I finished in my biggest lifts, but I didn't do them in competitions, so it's all hearsay.
Yeah, sure. And what was your greatest achievement in powerlifting, mate?
Winning the world championships for sure.
Yeah, mate, that's fucking awesome. But and you said that like you achieved that, and then you were like, "Fuck, I feel terrible," and then we kind of circle back to then sort of making that transition out.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like so in the 1 year. So in 2017, I won the Commonwealth, the European, and the World Championships. I won the Scottish and British too, but you know, they're like the 3. Like I won the Commonwealth, the European, the World Championships, and I was the only person to ever win the 3 of them in the 1 calendar year. No, people might have done that now. For sure, I don't know. They probably have, but at that point, no one else had done those 3 competitions in the same calendar year. But I remember, like the only way I could describe it was winning worlds meant so much to me that if someone had said to me, "You can not win worlds and you can live, you know, a really happy life till you're 100 years old." Or you can win worlds, but literally from the podium you'll be taken out the back, and you know that's you. You know your life's over. You know you'll be dead. What do you want? And to me, that would just be like the most stupid comment ever. Because I'm like, well, of course I'm going to take winning worlds. Like, what are you crazy? Like that's not even a difficult question. And I know to like a normal person or how a normal person thinks. And even like now, I understand like that's just such a stupid attitude. But to me, it was like, that's not even a difficult question. Like, are you crazy? Like, obviously I'd win worlds. Like, why would I want to live the rest of my life having not won worlds? It's pointless. And then I remember I won it. So I remember I won it. And then before you know it was all over. It was all over the podium. Like you're on the podium, the national anthem's going. It's all over. I'm back in an Airbnb, and I was in Belarus as well. So fucking what a weird place. But I was in Belarus, and I'm in an Airbnb myself, in my bedroom myself. I've got no Wi-Fi. I've got no internet, nothing. I'm just like sitting in my room myself, and I was just like is that it? Like, you know. This is not what it was meant to be like. Like I thought, like I genuinely would thought that like if I win worlds, it doesn't matter what happens to me for the rest of my life because I'm gonna like it doesn't matter. I don't care. So I remember I won it. I was like, oh, well, what the fuck? And then it's like you keep chasing that thing, but then it's you know you then realize like actually you're never going to get it because it's you know that's just not how life actually like that's not how life works. You know, like you're not going to do one thing and like oh that's the best thing ever. It's just not how it works. And I think as well, like what it maybe showed is actually that it's the importance of, you know, you're never like, and this is just me. Maybe I'm weird, or maybe it's my personality. I'm not sure, but actually, like the actual achievement itself, I don't think is particularly enjoyable or particularly good. It's trying to achieve it that I think is the part. That's the important part. Like actually trying to do it. I think actually achieving it is, you know, is I just don't. Well, just for me, it's like, it's the same, like, like trials or any of these things. It's like, it's like dedicate like literally every minute of every day of my existence to trying to win trials, and then you win trials, and then it's like, it's before you know it's over, and it doesn't, and it's like it's actually not about it's not about like the winning aspect. It's about it's about everything else, I think.
Yeah, man. It's funny when you were talking there at the beginning. That's such an elite athlete's mindset. I've heard that so many times where people will literally just genuinely give up their life to achieve that goal. So I'm not surprised, actually. Like, I agree that it is weird. It's definitely weird, but I'm not surprised to hear it from somebody that's an elite athlete. So it makes absolute sense. And I think what you were saying there as well, I think it again sounds really cliche, but it's definitely about the journey. And I think all of the benefits that you get, like the mindset, like, the small little wins, obviously they kind of accumulate up over time in the run up to something. And as you say, when you then achieve that, like, it's really about everything you've gained as a result of working towards that, all the dedication, all the lessons from that really matters, I think, more than that actual accolade itself. So yeah, all of that makes absolute sense, mate. And then obviously on to jiu-jitsu now. So now we're rechasing a new dream with jiu-jitsu, which is cool. And bringing that back to jiu-jitsu, so obviously you were training, you achieved that in powerlifting, we started jiu-jitsu, and we kind of joked about it, but we didn't really get into like how much your strength, like maybe in the beginning and also now, plays a role in your jiu-jitsu, and also I guess as a coach as well, like how important you think strength is on the mats and for someone who's doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so I mean, there's no two ways about it. I think my strength absolutely matters enormously, and it's like, anybody that says strength doesn't matter, it's just not existing in the real world, because
Yeah.
if strength didn't matter, we wouldn't have gender, we wouldn't have, we wouldn't divide things by gender, we wouldn't divide things by weight class. Like, there's a reason we do all of those things. Like, there is just like, it just is a thing. It's like, for example, it's like if we collectively as a world were like, right, we're going to get our number one, the best fighter in the world, and we're going to put him up against a silverback gorilla, and like somehow the silverback gorilla goes into the cage and knows like he's not allowed to bite. He has to abide by the rules of an MMA fight. So the silverback gorilla doesn't know a single martial art, but he would literally rip our best fighter ever limb from limb, because there is like a certain strength deficit that you just can't actually overcome, because it's like, what are you going to do to a silverback gorilla? Like, what are you going to do to that thing? It literally could pull your limb off. So there's no two ways about it. It obviously matters enormously. Now, it's not the only thing that matters, because I have lost to people that I am considerably stronger to. I lose to people in the training room, or that's maybe not the right word, but I mean, I suppose it is. I like lose and get tapped by people that I am stronger than, for sure. So it's like, it's not the only thing. Skills are absolutely the most important, but the reality is, if I'm competing in my weight class and all things are equal, but I'm way stronger, I'm probably going to win more often than they are. Like, if skills are equated for, if size is equated for, if experience is equated for, but I'm way stronger, out of 10 times, I'm probably going to win 80, 90, 100% of them.
Yeah.
If I go into a match with somebody and they are better jiu-jitsu, but I am way stronger, again, it's like I've got a technique deficit, but they've got a strength deficit. So, it absolutely can close the gap. But again, so can technique. Technique can absolutely close the gap. Like, these things exist, but it absolutely matters massively. And I think at the highest level, like at the highest level, the reality is, it's like at ADCC, for example, it gets to a point, it's like everybody's really fucking good at jiu-jitsu, everybody's fit, everybody's experienced, everybody's a high level athlete, everybody's strong. So it's like the little edges that you can have actually start to make a big difference. And I think the reality is that, like, for me, like, if that's it, like, if I just keep getting better and better and better at jiu-jitsu, and I keep getting better, like, eventually, like, I'm going to be as good as these guys, but I'm also going to be way stronger, so therefore I have like such a massive advantage. So it's not the only thing, and like the thing is that like strength overcomes massive deficits of technique, but then technique overcomes deficits of strength too. But it absolutely is hugely important. But I think as well, a lot of people don't maybe think about it, is it's not just about, like, strength isn't actually just about like performance on a mat or performance in the competition. Like, actually as well with with proper lifting and getting stronger, it's, I actually think for most people, because most people don't actually want to have dreams of trying to win trials and win ADCC, or most people don't even care about competing. Most people just want to do jiu-jitsu and stay on the mats. And the reality is that the stronger you are and the more muscle that you have and the stronger you are through full ranges of motion, and the stronger your connective tissue and your joints and your ligaments and tendons are as a result of properly lifting weights, you're going to be way more robust, you're going to be way more resilient, and you're going to stay on the mats way longer. There's just no two ways about it. I think for most people, obviously the performance aspect of lifting weights and doing proper strength conditioning is enormous, and you can go on endlessly about. But I actually think most people overlook it, and it's actually about longevity, and it makes you way more robust and far more resilient. And also as well, if you do get injured, you're going to come back from the injury way quicker and way better, and your body can deal with injuries way better if you're stronger. And you'll also get away with stuff more as well. So what might have injured you 2 years ago, if all of a sudden you're way stronger, and much stronger through, a full range of motion, you're going to be far more resilient through these different ranges of motions as well. So yeah, I think the benefits are honestly pretty endless.
Yeah, mate, I couldn't agree more with all of that. And when I speak to, because I do a bit of online coaching as well, but when I speak to like some of my jiu-jitsu colleagues about doing weight training, the objection is always that they, they'll do it if they're injured because they want to get back to the mats. But if they're healthy and they're not hurt, it's always because they don't want the time in the weight room because they feel it's going to take away from time on the mats. So what do you think the optimal split is in regard to kind of training and weight room? Like, what do you try and get maybe the athletes that you're working with to do, and what does your own training look like?
Yeah, so I would say for pretty much 99% of people, lifting weights twice a week is perfect. I don't think you need to do more than that. I think twice a week is absolutely perfect. If possible, throwing in cardio on top of that. But honestly, I think you could do cardio on the same when you're at the gym lifting weights. You could just do it after, so you still, the frequency can still be 2. But I would say honestly, for pretty much everybody, I'd say 2 lifting and 1 cardio per week is absolutely perfect. I think if you're taking jiu-jitsu really seriously and that's your number one goal, I think maybe you could extend lifting to 3 times, but really not necessary. With regards to like jiu-jitsu wise, I would say, just train like as often as you whatever your schedule can allow. I think as well, like, I think the most important thing is that, and it's one of my favorite quotes. I don't know who said it. I didn't definitely come up with it, but it's people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what they can do in 10. It's so common. You see people, go absolutely flat out and fly for 6 months, a year, 18 months, and then you never see them again. Yeah. Whereas if you actually just do much less, but do it for 10 years, you're going to be so much further forward. So I would say pick a realistic amount of times you can do jiu-jitsu that you can actually sustain and comply with over a long period of time, because that's actually what counts as compliance over 10, 15, 20 years, not over 1 or 2 years. And then lifting weights, I honestly think twice a week is more than enough. And yeah, I don't think you need to do more than 2 times. And I think cardio once is perfect.
Yeah, mate, love that. Perfect. Great advice. And in regard to like rep ranges and that type of thing, obviously being a power lifter, I'm assuming you probably would have been at the lower end of rep ranges. I remember Gordon back in the day talking about the higher end and muscular endurance and doing like sets of 20 reps. And then people talk a lot about like plyometrics and the importance of that for a resilient body in jiu-jitsu. I mean, what's your lean in regard to that for jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, so plyos, I think plyos are good. I do plyos every week. I think plyos are great. I think plyos are fantastic. I do think right now plyos are definitely like the fashionable thing, I think, or became a bit of a fashionable thing to do. And I think maybe maybe the bent people make plyos out to be like, you know, the literal like saving grace of, you know, if you do plyos, like I genuinely heard people talking about how you do plyos, it's like it's going to reduce your rate of like your risk of heart attacks and, you know, cardiovascular issues and stuff, and maybe like absolutely, because I suppose it's exercise, so absolutely maybe. But what I mean is that I think they maybe get slightly overhyped, but I do think they're really good to do. I think plyos for me, I think reasons that I think they're great. I think one, I think again they can improve mobility. I think they can be really good for mobility. Two, just doing them personally, my joints just feel healthier from doing them. My knees and my hips and my back just feel better for doing them. Now, you know, is it directly from doing them or is it something else? I'm not so sure, but, you know, I would say I feel confident in saying I think that they probably improve that. And then again, I think they definitely have some benefits in terms of, I think that they can, again, make us a little bit more robust, you know, with the ability to like accelerate and decelerate through different ranges of motion. I think they can help. One thing I do think with plyos though, is that I think people think that they're going to do plyos and all of a sudden they're going to become the most powerful thing to exist and all this stuff. But actually it's a case, I think the thing is that they forget is to become very powerful, you also actually need to be strong.
Yeah.
Because all power is strength applied quickly. Now, if you don't have any strength to apply, you can't be powerful.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you can be super strong and not powerful at all, but you can also be very weak and then not powerful at all too.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, if you're doing plyos, yeah, that's great. I would recommend doing them. I don't think it takes very long. I think, you know, it's always like, it's like, you know, risk versus the reward. What's the risk of doing plyos? I don't think there's any. What's the reward? I think there's quite a few. And I think that the time constraints that they take is very, very minimal. You know, you honestly could get away with doing them for 10 minutes twice a week.
Yeah.
But I think that to become more powerful, I think that getting really strong and not being overweight are the two main factors for being really powerful. I think the main things that stop people from being powerful are they're either not strong or they're overweight and way too heavy. And then rep ranges wise, so me personally, I think it depends on the stage that the person who's lifting is at. So I think if someone's maybe a bit more of a beginner in lifting weights, or they're not particularly experienced, I think for compounds between 5 and 8 reps, I would say is pretty spot on. And then I'd say for like accessories between 6 and 12, and then maybe for arms between 10 and 15 is pretty good. I think if people become a little bit more advanced, a little bit better, maybe for compounds, maybe 4 to 6. But yeah, I don't think there's necessarily ever much of a need for people to be doing like singles and doubles if jiu-jitsu is your goal. However, I do also think that sometimes that again, like, you know, people like, for example, like quite a few people that I coach, for example, I know like they actually like love lifting weights and they really like doing triples, for example, on a bench. So it's like, well, yeah, that's okay. We can absolutely do that. Because again, if they're enjoying that, that's going to improve compliance. And also if they're enjoying it, they're probably just going to be, you know, a bit more mentally aroused for their sessions, and then therefore their performance is probably going to be better over the long term too. But yeah, I'd say that's the kind of general rep ranges that I would stick to. And I think with regards to like movements, I personally like to keep it very simple. I like to, you know, I think in a program, I think having a squat in there, so whether that be like a back squat, a front squat, a Bulgarian split squat, the Zercher squat, I just think any squat, I think any hinge, again, any deadlift, it could be a conventional deadlift, trap bar deadlift, any form of a deadlift. And then I think a horizontal push-pull, so any form of a bench and any form of a row, and then any form of a vertical push-pull, so any overhead press, any form of a pull-down, throw in some arms, throw in some core, throw in some plyos. And I've never really done it personally. I've never really trained my neck directly, but should people be that way inclined, again, I think that could be a relatively good idea too.
Yeah, nice, man. And any thoughts in regard to like volume, like I don't know, amount of sets that people should be doing with each lift across a week to optimize I guess, benefits or strength?
Yeah, I would say for jiu-jitsu, I would say, if powerlifting's your goal, I think things definitely vary massively, because like that's the sport itself. But I'd say for jiu-jitsu, the whole point of our lifting is we're getting stronger and fitter and becoming more athletic for the mat. So we don't want to be doing so much in the gym that by the time you get to the mat, you're then fucked. I'd say honestly, between, again, depending on time constraints, the person's like experience levels, and also like their recovery as well, and like their work capacity abilities, I'd say between 2 and 4 sets per exercise.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And just thinking back to like your peak powerlifting days, obviously you're a lot lighter now, so you're going to be not as strong, but like pound for pound, do you think you're still like a similar strength to what you were when powerlifting?
Good question. I'd say my upper body is not actually like a million miles away. So like for example, like right now, I based off of my bench press right now and the reps I'm doing, I could bench 200 for one. I could do a 200 kilo bench. And I would say when I finish, I could probably do 225 to 230. So I'm actually not that far behind. My overhead press, I didn't ever do overhead press when I done powerlifting, so technically my overhead press is the strongest it's ever been. I'd say my upper body is definitely. I'd say my lower body, no, maybe not.
Mate, you've got to be one of the strongest grapplers on the pro scene, surely. Still, is there anybody else that you're aware of that like has a similar credentials in regard to strength to you?
On like who competes at ADCC? Don't think so. Dan's very, very, very strong. He's like, unusually strong. He's pretty ridiculously strong. I think that in a gym, I would lift more than him, but on the mat, I don't think I'm stronger than Dan, to be fair. Outside of him, I don't think so, if I'm honest. There's another guy at Kingsway. I don't know if you're aware of a guy called the Mobility Monster. Ty.
Yeah.
He came across his Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh, he's like makes me feel like a child. Yeah, he literally makes me feel like a child.
Yeah, some people are just so fucking big.
He's enormous. So yeah, I'd say like, yeah, him and Dan. Outside of that, I'm not too sure. To be fair, I know. There's a world's strongest man winner. I forget his name. Martin's Leases. Do you know who Martin's Leases is?
No, I don't think so.
No. So he won World's Strongest Man in 2019, I think. So he's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu right now, and like, he competes in jiu-jitsu as a blue belt. So he's stronger for sure. I'd say he's stronger as well.
Okay.
So yeah, but I would say like on like an actual like competing at ADCC, I would say like in the weights room, I think I would feel confident saying I'd probably tip it. But on the mat, I would say I might be, I don't know. Dan's very strong.
Yeah, man. I'll probably go with that for the thumbnail anyway, just heads up. But mate, it's crazy. Like, it's just like we said a second ago, like mass moves mass, doesn't it? And that's the thing. I watched your match with Dan just a little bit earlier ahead of coming up to speak to you. And when you said you were like 6'3", I mean, what do you weigh at the moment?
For trials, I weighed in at like 125 kilos.
Okay.
So pretty much 125 kilos.
Yeah, and ADCC last year, were you a similar weight?
I'd say I'm probably the exact same, yeah.
Yeah. So when I saw you against Dan, you were obviously 6'3" or 6'4", whatever you said, and 125 kilos, and he looks so fucking big next to you. It's fucking madness, mate, how big some people are.
Yeah. No, I know. He felt it too.
Yeah, mate, fair play. Dude, this has been a really good chat, and I've enjoyed the conversation around obviously all the powerlifting stuff, and I think we've offered some really good advice around obviously like the lifts and the gym work for people listening. So hopefully they've taken a lot away from today. I know you're a busy guy and you probably want to get to training, so I'm going to wrap this up in a second. But did you want to shout out any like thanks to anybody, any sponsors or anything, mate, before we go?
Yeah, so thanks to sponsors wise, Progress, Strom, Atomic Dojo. Thanks to those three, and then just thanks to my fiance, my coaches, or my training partners. I don't want to name individual names because I don't want to forget people. But yeah, thanks to all of them. Yeah, and thanks to you for having me on as well.
No, it was a pleasure, mate, and all the best, obviously, with getting the visa sorted and the move, and with obviously ADCC and everything else, mate. But I appreciate your time, mate. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Cheers, brother.